Kind of got some bad news. Well, not really bad news, just kind of a bummer. Went to the pet store to pick up my new tea, and they sold it this morning, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to wait a couple of weeks. Good news is my GBB is just starting to molt. This morning when I woke up, it was laying its mat down, so I knew he was getting ready. Just came home. He's flipped, kind of hasn't started moving around yet, so we'll give it a minute. I've really been waiting for him to start molting because in its enclosure I'm starting to get mold. Let me see if I can try to get this on the camera. Now, I didn't have this issue in its last enclosure, and I think it had just a lot better ventilation. But let me get some lights. If you can see that right next to the water dish, that cork bark, you can kind of see it in the soil as well. I've been waiting for him to molt, that way I can get him at least 1 feed in, let him harden up a little bit, and then I'm going to drill out these holes just a smidge bigger. Its previous enclosure, as you can see, it's this Planer's sunflower kernel container. And cross holes, top holes, had no mold growth inside this at all, none. And I use real mesquite, so it's real bark, no mold. Then I get it in this enclosure. So if you can see those water droplets, I put those in like a week ago and they're still there. So like I said, once he molts, hardens up, I'll get some food at him. I'm going to pull him out, drill those holes out. I went and got some real cork bark, so hopefully that won't be an issue. But I mean, even in its next enclosure, when I set that up, I had the mesquite in, a little bit of sphagnum moss for it to use, and no mold growth. For this one, my Aphanopelma seymani, that one's also got the bark, but it's got really good ventilation. All I did was block the top off, but I've got the sides opened up, and it seems to be doing good. I haven't seen any mold growth, but I'm going to pick up some isopods and some springtails and throw them in there just in case. But that's the update for today. No new tea, but at least this one's starting to molt, so we'll have some exciting feeding videos to come. Because this thing out of molt, it takes prey down with extreme prejudice. So stay tuned, guys. I'll keep you updated. I'll try to record me kind of revamping its house, show you how I'm going to go about getting these holes drilled out. I went to Home Depot and got a bit that's just a little bit larger. I've had one issue with an escaped tea, and that was my Grammostola pulchripes. I know a lot of people have issues with these dram jars collecting mold, and before I housed my tea in here, I had another one. It was a little bit larger, holes in the top, a little bit larger than normal. I let this go. I just kind of maintained it for like a couple of weeks and kept my eye on it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then probably about like the 4th week I kind of quit watching it because none of the soil was kind of drying out. I came back a few weeks after I stopped watching it, and this thing was just full of mold. And that was before I had the tea. That was just me experimenting. I'd seen that people were having issues with mold inside these. So I went ahead and drilled some holes out. It was a 1/2 inch sling, and it escaped. And I went and measured all of my holes, and one hole is slightly bigger than the rest. And I'm thinking that was the hole that it escaped out of. When I went and looked at it, there was soil around the hole, kind of on the inside and the outside. So learn from my mistakes. Just when you think a tea can't get out of a hole, they will squeeze out. So I'm going to get a drill bit that's just the next size up from these, kind of in increments, to make sure I don't go too big on the holes, which I doubt it, because I think this guy's, once he comes out of this molt, I think he's going to be at about 1 inch or so, is what I would guess. So, and then I'm thinking about maybe drilling some holes in this top lid because it doesn't have it. This is one of those Jamie type enclosures, but I'm thinking it might be a combination of how well this thing holds humidity and then having the real bark in there is what's getting my mold growth. I don't think springtails or isopods will survive in that. I'll probably throw a couple in there just to see. But that's going to be it for today's update, guys. Take it easy.